again with a wonderful evening. Thank God for all of His graces. I want to welcome you tonight to the July meeting of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party. I want to do some housekeeping before we get going. So one, we'd ask that everybody silence their cell phones, and also, out of respect for what's going on, if we can try to limit the conversations so that people can actually hear what's going on. We've had a little issue with that over the last several meetings. So out of respect for the people who come to speak to us, and the fact that some of you have come a long distance to be here, and I welcome you from outside of the valley here tonight as well. So, why don't you, okay, we got the Andrew with the finishing up his dessert there, so I throw him under the bus every week. All right, if you could join me in a short prayer here before we start the meeting. O God, our Creator, from your provident hand we have received our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have called us as your people and given us the right and the duty to worship you, the only true God, and your Son, Jesus Christ. Through the power and working of your Holy Spirit, you call us to live out our faith in the midst of the world, bringing the light and the saving truth of the gospel to every corner of society. We ask you to bless us in our vigilance for the gift of religious liberty. Give us the strength of mind and heart to readily defend our freedoms when they are threatened. Give us courage in making our choices on behalf of the rights of your people and the freedom of conscience of all people of faith. Grant, we pray, O Heavenly Father, a clear and united voice to all of your sons and daughters gathered here today in this decisive hour in the history of our nation, so that with every trial withstood and every danger overcome, for the sake of our children, our grandchildren, and all who come after us, this great land will always be one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. And if you could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you could stay standing for the National Anthem. So I want to recognize a couple special guests here tonight. Sam and Linda Brancadora came from the Berks Patriots tonight to join us. I want to welcome Sam and Linda tonight to our meeting. Thank you for coming. We have Robert Smith Jr. here. Over here, he's running for the Pennsylvania House in the 22nd District. That's a district that they moved here to the Valley in the redistricting. So he's running for basically an open seat, and in a wave year, you're going to win that seat, aren't you, Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir.
All right, good job. All right. I know we have a couple elected school board representatives from across the valley. I see Linda Stubitz here from the Nazareth area school district. I see Sean Rose there from the Saucon Valley School District. Do we have anybody here tonight who was elected? Oh, Brian Eichfeld, and a former board member, Brian, from the Saucon Valley School District. I believe that's a school district that didn't raise taxes for a very long time. So you guys have done a good job down there in Saucon Valley. Are there any other members here tonight that are elected for any other position in the valley? Here, raise your hand. You're down in, what's your name again?
Zachary Hopkins.
Zachary, and where are you from? Slatington Borough Council. And what's your elevation? 20. So, thank you for coming out tonight and standing up for our next generation and getting involved in local government. Thank you very much. All right, so who else? Where? You are with what school district? Upper Perkiomen. Thank you for coming up tonight from that area. That's up and down Montgomery County, right? Okay. All right, well, thanks everybody for coming. And I just wanted to make some opening remarks here tonight before we get into the agenda. First thing is, of course, you saw our announcements about the meeting. We had a congresswoman from Florida coming up, and she's a freshman congresswoman who's really phenomenally just lighting it up down there in Florida. And she had to cancel at the last minute, so that's okay, because we have a lot of other good things going on here. We're going to hear from Lisa Scheller a little bit, and she was going to introduce the congresswoman, so Lisa's going to talk a little bit tonight. We also had Senator Dush coming. Now, Senator Dush is the senator that's involved in the election investigation of the Senate, and we were excited to hear from him, to ask him some what would be challenging questions about what is going on in Harrisburg, not only with the budget, but with the election investigation, because we know, in spite of what these people tell us, they stole that election in 2020. And I want Merrick Garland of the United States Department of Justice, our Attorney General of the United States, and I want Judge Shapiro to hear me well. You need to stop your threats that when we say election was stolen, that you say we're criminals. This can't stand. And I know they have their informants here tonight, so I want to welcome the informants that are here tonight. Thank you for coming.
Give me a hug.
Yeah. All right, so many of you know that I had a public reading of the Declaration in Bethlehem on July 4th.
Who went?
And it was the 11th time that we did that, and I find out that I got a call from some people on late Tuesday night that the city council in Bethlehem and the mayor of Bethlehem were all up in arms, and the mayor called for an investigation for a permitless race riot that occurred
First Amendment.
City Hall. So we had no permit, and we were hate-filled, and there were Confederate flags flying all over the place, which was not true, and they called for an investigation for that. Amazing. This is how ugly the left has become. They're reading the Declaration of Independence as some kind of a threat to them, that they actually want to make sure it never happens again in the city of Bethlehem. So I'm going to pre-invite all of you to come next year to stand up. When I was reading my opening remarks about Declaration reading, I referred to a lot of the history, a little bit about the history of the Declaration and the set of grievances that they outlined in that Declaration. And what I said was that set of grievances that led them to declare the things that they said are even more important today because our freedoms are under attack like never before in our history. The government locked us down, destroyed our businesses, destroyed our economy, is attempting to brainwash our children with that racist concept of critical race theory and destroying our families at every possible turn. Our founding fathers were fed up when they signed that declaration, and we are fed up, and we won't take it any longer. I recited some words that the candidate for Congress running against Liz Cheney said. I listened to her speech, and I stole some of her words of that declaration reading, and I'm going to read them again because she hit the nail on the head. So I'd like to take credit for this, but I'll tell you what, it's how I think we should all feel. We are fed up with the Green New Deal and the socialists who created it. We are fed up with the attacks on our fossil fuel and energy industries. We are fed up with an open border. We are fed up with human trafficking. We are fed up with fentanyl flooding into our country. We are fed up with illegal immigration. We are fed up with critical race theory. We are fed up with boys competing in girls' sports. We are fed up with the liberal media, Twitter, Facebook, Google, and YouTube for blocking conservative speech. We are fed up with our government and university censoring conservative thought, canceling debate, and rewriting history. We are fed up with the corruption in the FBI, censoring conservative thought, with the Homeland Security, the CIA, the NSA, and the FISA court. They're all out of control. We are fed up with mask mandates, vaccine mandates, the CDC, the NIH, the World Health Organization, and the misinformation campaigns surrounding COVID. And we are all fed up with Anthony Fauci, and he needs to go. We are fed up with the politicians and the elitists in D.C. and Harrisburg who are getting rich while the middle class falls further behind every year. We are fed up with Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, and they will go. We are fed up with the January 6th Commission and those people who think they can gaslight us. That's got to stop. Stand up and tell these people it can't go on. And tell our legislatures in Harrisburg that they need to do what we're going to talk to you about tonight with their budget process, and they're right up there now. Senator Duff was supposed to be here tonight, but they're in session because they can't get a budget passed. And what they're trying to do, and these Republicans are the evil enemy of us right now. The Democrats, we know who they are. It's the Republicans who are the enemy of us and we the people, because they are out there trying to just placate us. We understand. We might give you a little election reform, and then we're going to go away, and you're going to vote for us, because the lesser of two evils is those Democrats will give you horrible things. These reckless Republicans are already giving us horrible things, and we need to send that message to them. So please listen when Mr. Bockenberg speaks tonight about that petition that's going on and that pressure that we want to put on in Harrisburg. So with that being said, I know my agenda was a little changed tonight, so I'm a little out of sorts here, so give me 1 second as I pick this up. All right, so Melissa, our vice chair, reminded me to tell you that those seats are hard, so go buy these. She said she would make sure that you buy these from us so that you can have a more comfortable seating when you're sitting here tonight. With that being said, all right, where's the next slide, man? All right, so just a real quick summary of our status right now. 6,651 members. Bank balance of $66,000 plus. Credit line available for funds, $10,000. All right, many months ago, or maybe even a year and a half or 2 years ago, I and the board started talking about how important it is, especially when they locked us down 2 years ago, to support conservative businesses. Some of us, you may remember, went out to Harrisburg right after Thanksgiving, or out to York County, and protested at the home of Wolf that day. His business got to stay open, and we went to a pizza shop there, Little Sicily or something like that, in Elvira, Taste of Sicily, because we went out to support that business and stood up to that tyrant. We need to support the businesses of our like-minded friends and family and neighbors. And we're creating this directory, and once we get a reasonable number, we're going to provide that directory in a directory format. So if you want to go to talk to Melissa, if you have a business, you want us to include that in the directory. I know, for instance, Mr. Staley here, who owns Staley's, he's here tonight. He has that great business there, and we want you to go and visit his business. And that's the kind of thing we want to do, support each other, because they are doing everything they can to destroy our economy. And And Amy and Pete over here. Amy and Pete, where are you? Amy and Pete have opened 2 businesses in the last year in Nazareth. So go up there to the organic place there, and also now the Farm and Table restaurant there. Nazareth. What did I say?
Ask for a smoothie.
All right, so they got their new restaurant up there in Nazareth, both across from the Joe Emmerich office there and the City Hall up there in Nazareth. So go enjoy their business as well. All right. Andrew. All right, who's here for the first time? Raise your hand. Welcome, thank you. I'd like to encourage you to join the LVTP. It's $20. We have membership forms here. And also, if you're here and you're not a member, please consider joining, because our influence in Harrisburg, when we talk to the legislators and everything, depends on us saying how many members we have and how much money we have, because that impacts these people. Because political power is votes and money. And they don't listen to people that say, oh, I have 20 members of this group and we want you to listen to us. They're now listening because back in April, we had a coalition it started with about 45 grassroots organizations across the state. It's now 80 plus that went out to Harrisburg at the Capitol in mid-May, submitted a declaration for integrity for the election, to go back to repeal Act 77, to go back to in-person voting. We protested at our Republican legislatures' offices in mid-June on Flag Day. I got a lot of calls from legislators. Tom, make it stop. Joe Emmer called and said, oh my God, why are you protesting? I'm a Republican. You're going to have the Democrat win. I said, Joe, make it easy. Sign the declaration. Do the right thing. I'll think about it. So tell these people, call these legislators and tell them, no more. Stand up, do the right thing. Don't pass that budget with the funding until you get rid of these things. Don't fund these drop boxes and all that kind of stuff. We can have the power to do this. All right. With that being said, we will have a 50-50 raffle at the end of the night. Tickets are, where are they? They're being sold over here on the side. Also, remember when we take the break, we sell merchandise. Go ahead. And we also have the gun raffle tickets that we sell. When we sell 100, we draw that every time we sell 100 tickets. And we have chips, LVTP chips, so if you don't have money tonight, cash, we can get you to put on a credit card chip, and then you can spend your money here tonight. And don't forget the cannolis and the brownies that Andrew and the Boy Scouts sell here to support their Boy Scouts and the troops visit to West Point and all those things that they do. And of course, the hot dogs over there. Melissa? Buy a hot dog from Melissa. All right, we also have merchandise there in the back. I want my Let's Go Brandon shirt. Do you have any back there yet, or are they also left?
Yeah, pockets on them.
Pockets on them, good. Okay. Next slide. All right. As you know, we never stop thanking the people who have defended our freedom. And Val and Blair have spent the last 10 or 12 or more years helping the troops. Here, this thing is...
I'm short.
She's short, okay. So they've done a tremendous job, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what they're doing, and also I usually read some letters from some of the troops, so thank you.
Good evening. So on Monday, we celebrated, as Andrew would say, Independence Day. Okay, and no matter how young or old you are, you probably have at least one good memory of that 4th day of July. It is because of our men and women who served in our military, whether it be Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam War, World War II, World War I, Civil War, all our wars, no matter what it is we have Independence Day because of that. And everyone here, I think, is here to make their own little difference in America. Because America is not what we want it to be and not what it used to be. I think you'll agree with me, right?
Yeah.
So what Blair and I do is we continually, and it's 13 years, by the way, Tom, at the Tea Party, we started sending free care packages to our military. We have enough support from churches, people like you, whatever, to have not just send overseas, but we also have the opportunity to send one care package while they're in America. You know, people say, oh, originally we're sending overseas because they don't get what they need. You'd be surprised what they ask for sometimes. I mean, unbelievable stuff. File folders, our military doesn't give them, our government doesn't give them file folders. So we've got some unusual requests and we try to do these things. Fast forward, we've been doing this long enough that if we get a request or we know of somebody serving in America, we send them a surprise care package to let them know that people like you support them and they love it. So how many here have bought a cannoli over the years? Oh, come on. They're sold at a meeting. You could have more people.
Who needs to buy a cannoli?
Okay, so if you didn't buy it, you can still buy it. Because Andrew, in the spring, always takes the Boy Scouts to Camp Jamboree at West Point. Well, anyway, when Andrew came back this year, he said, hey, Valerie, Blair, any chance you can send these guys going through finals? There's like 4 people up there. I said, give me their names and we'll get them out. He goes, well, they're only there for a short time. I said, they'll go out tomorrow. So we sent these random things because they all share. Well, ironically, out of the 4 people, 1 girl, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that anymore, 1 female, and 4 gentlemen. We got 3 thank yous. Guess from who? The guys. So here they are. From Larry. Mr. Azon, I just received the package. I want to thank you, Troops 359, 352, and 33, for sending me this care package. Times here can get rough, and it makes me feel leagues better knowing that we have so many supporters. I wish you and all those many blessings. I'll be working with Scoutland Council again next year, and I'm ready and willing to serve you and all when we see you again. God bless you all. Okay? You know, I think I have to correct myself. This one's from Ella, so maybe the girl did write. I'm wrong. You got that, Blair? Anyway, Ella writes, just picked up your package. Thanks so much. The cards made my finals week a little brighter. I truly appreciate all of you. And for Blake, sir, I got your care package. It means a lot, especially during finals week. Can't wait to see you all again next year. So, anybody that's brought anything, or anybody who wants to bring anything, we're usually here every month. We can definitely use toothbrushes and popcorn, microwave popcorn, and write a letter. We're running low on letters. So I challenge each of you to write one little note this week, even if it's on loose leaf. Bring it back next month, stuff our box so that we continue to do what we do. And I just want to tell you, any of you golfers out there, we have 2 golf outings, one by the Special Forces, which support us, and also one by the Gold Star parents. So without further ado, the information is in the back. One's a little pricey because it's at the Trump golf course. The other one is more local. So there are one's September 10th, one's September 20th. I thank all of you. God bless you. God bless our military, and God bless America.
I also wanted to mention there's a couple other people that I did not welcome here tonight. I see my friend Maria Miller here from New Hope for More Nation down in Bucks County. Welcome from Bucks County today. Thanks for coming up. Also, my good friend Bruce Gilbert's here. Many of you know Bruce and his family. They sing for America, and they're going to be having their show this summer in August. at St. Tommy Moore on August 17th. So just wanted to welcome Bruce and make sure that you support them and come out to their show. And he's going to have more information when we get to the August meeting. So welcome tonight.
Thank you. Yep. August 17th through August 22nd, James and the Giant Peach. It's going to be a Broadway experience you won't want to miss, and it's being produced and directed by those who think exactly like us. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. All right. All right, so Tim, did you want to say anything, or did we just want to remind people that we have that pig roast every summer? This year it's going to be at the, this year up here at the Grove on August 27th. So I know Tim's here somewhere. If you don't want to say anything, just make sure you keep that in mind. We can start buying those tickets and make sure we're going to have a good time that night, or that day here. And we're going to have Andrew in the dump tank. All right, so Miss Arnold, are you here right now? I just also wanted to say, Shirley Arnold was the one that put this together here. She has a relative that was one of the readers at the original reading of the Declaration in Allentown on July 8th, and she's a board member, and she ended up having to be taken to the hospital today right before the meeting, so she's still there and under observation, but I think her daughter is here, right? Do you want to say a few words about this?
Thank you. So let me preface with, I don't like public speaking, so I apologize. Peter Rhodes was a member of the Constitutional Congress of 1776, the Assembly of 1777, and later becoming the first Burgess of Allentown in 1811. Why is Peter Rhodes important? He was the person that read the Declaration of Independence on July 8, 1776, on the steps of the Old Zion Reformed Church, the same site that is now the Liberty Bell Shrine. He was also my great times 6 grandfather. So my family is looking to reenact this piece of history and welcome you all to join us. Tomorrow at noon at the Lehigh County Government Center, we're going to reread the Declaration of Independence.
So join that tomorrow at 10. All right, next slide. All right, the Right for Life Committee, June 24th, U.S. Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. That battle is not over. Obviously, it's going to return to the states, which where it should have been all along. But we're going to have some states that are going to do some horrible things. So we still have to keep in the battle. We have to fight. And Andrew has put some information here. Contact him or see Andrew tonight about the March for Life and on September 17th. The banquet on October 21st, I think that's at the Hershey Lodge. And then the guest speaker will be Ben Carson that day in October.
Tables back there.
Carson.
Tables back there if they want to go.
Tables back there for if you want to go and sign up at the break. And then again in January, as always, January 20th, the National March for Life. All right, so he's not here tonight, so I did talk to his chief of staff, and it's not pretty out there tonight, I think, from what I'm hearing. So, next slide there. All right, so no, we're not going to get to the Bethany yet. We're going to, actually, I think we're going to hear from Dean Browning. Dean Browning ran for the Pennsylvania Senate seat 14, and you all know Dean. He was on our board. He ran for Congress, and now he successfully won his primary bid for the Senate seat 14 in Pennsylvania. So we want him out in Harrisburg so he can be another voice to fight this rhino establishment. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about the election integrity issues.
Thank you. Thank you. So listening to Valerie speak, maybe it's because James Caan passed away today. I was reminded of the Godfather, the words to live by. Leave the gun, take the cannolis. I've been married for 34 years, and back when I was dating my wife back in the 80s, she made a comment to me after we'd been out a couple of times saying, you know, you remind me of somebody I've seen on TV. And I was much younger then, much thinner. I had a mustache, so my first thought was, well, she's got to be thinking of Tom Selleck and Magnum P.I. And she's some of the ladies nodding up and down. So imagine my surprise when I asked her who, and she said, "You remind me of James Webb from Dragnet." And I thought, what the hell? I said, why? She goes, "Because you're always the facts, ma'am, just the facts." So if you've heard me speak, that is very much the case. And I'll start off with and give you a fact. $763,000. But what does that mean? That is the amount of money that Mark Zuckerberg and the Facebook Foundation gave to Lehigh County in 2020 to run the election. The budget for voter registration in Lehigh County is typically incurred from $1.2 to $1.5 million based on the year of the election. They got 50% of that from the Zuckerberg Foundation. And what did they do with that money? They used the money to print the ballots. They used the money to buy drop boxes. They used the money to buy the machines that counted the ballots. And they used the money to pay the people who ran the machines who counted the ballots. So think about the change. They printed the ballots, they paid for the drop boxes, paid for the counting machines, and paid for the people that ran the machines. Yet they want us to think that there's nothing wrong with the election. That's just Lehigh County. Further south of us in Chester County got $2.6 million from the Zuckerberg Foundation and Facebook. That is more than their entire budget for their voter registration department. In total, in 2020, Mark Zuckerberg and the Zuckerberg Foundation gave $20 million to the state of Pennsylvania, to various counties, and to the state to run the election. All saying that they were doing that because they wanted a free and fair election. This is the same group that will send you to Facebook jail for the slightest infraction or saying something that they disagree with. Of that $20 million, they gave $10 million to the county of Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia is roughly the same size as Pittsburgh. So how much money do you think Pittsburgh got? Pittsburgh got a little bit more than $2 million. $10 million for Philadelphia, $2 million for Pittsburgh. You might ask why the difference. The difference is that Philadelphia is 76% Democratic and Pittsburgh is 57% Democratic. So they went where the votes were. I told you what they did with the money in Lehigh County. What did they do with the $10 million in Philadelphia? Well, they parceled out part of that to nonprofit organizations outside of voter registration, and they created or set up what they called satellite voting facilities. Satellite voting facilities, and this is actually in the proposal, satellite voting facilities with the specific purpose of in-person mail-in voting. Think about that. In-person mail-in voting. How does that work? The way it worked in Philadelphia is that a church or a nonprofit group would set up a tent either at the church or at a park and have people come and sign up to vote, fill out their voter registration, get their mail-in ballot. They would help them fill it out right there, and then they would take it all in one step. Yet, when we step back and say, we think the election was stolen, they say, no, it was not. It was stolen right in front of us by perfectly legal activities like this. So you ask yourself, what do we need to do to change it? First of all, we have got to stop allowing outside nonprofits, foundations like Zuckerberg or the Ford Foundation to pay for our elections. Plain and simple, we've got to stop that. And the way we do that is to elect people and send them to Harrisburg who have that as their focus. Now you might ask, well, what happens if we elect Republicans in the House and the Senate, but we've got a Democratic governor? How do we make a change? We make a change by having the legislature use the power that they have, which is the power of the purse. Tell them, we will not pass a budget unless you make these changes in law, and hold the budget hostage. That is our leverage. And to do that, we need to send people to Harrisburg that are prepared to use that leverage. I'm prepared to use that leverage. I know Jared Coleman, who has appeared here and spoke to you in the past, is prepared to do the same. Both he and I are running for Senate seats in Lehigh County. We certainly would appreciate your support. Thank you. If anybody really thinks about the Tom Selleck, please see me in the back.
So before we get to the next speaker, I also wanted to congratulate Andrew Mazon for what he did in the last cycle. As you may recall, maybe about a year or so ago or more now, he and I started talking with the use of a pact that we have to educate people in the Valley who are Republicans to get involved with the Republican Party. How do you do that? Well, the first step was to get people in the voting offices to serve as judges of elections and clerks and minority and majority inspectors. So we started having training sessions to teach people how to do that, and we had some good level of success, and that's another piece of the puzzle of us watching what's going on. And so I want to congratulate Andrew for that great effort. We then segued that to a greater effort to get people to run for committee spots in those counties. And he himself ran for state committee, and then he ended up running for the county vice chair. And interestingly enough, you may have heard me many times over through the years be very highly critical of the former leadership of the NCRC and the hypocrisy and the thuggery that would come out of that office. So with that great effort, Lee Snover is gone. She's no longer the chair of the North Hampton County Republican Committee. Congratulations, Andrew, for that feat. But not only is she gone, but we have Glenn Geisinger, who's a former county council member who ran as chair, and Andrew and Glenn are going to work together to build that committee back to where it should be, and they understand the functions of a county party and what it needs to do and what's the difference between a Tea Party and a county party. And so thank you, Andrew, for all those great efforts, and congratulations on being vice chair. And I know Glenn was supposed to be here tonight, but I guess he wasn't able to make it at the last minute. But I've spoken to Joe Fischel, who's the current chair of Lehigh County. They haven't had their reorganization meeting that's coming up shortly. We anticipate he will be again chair. We also anticipate that Joe and Glenn and the team will be working together, and we're going to have a leadership meeting
First time
of the Tea Party. That will be the first time in decades that both counties are going to work together, because the most important task that we have to face here in the Valley is to get Lisa Scheller elected to Congress, and having a functioning county party and a Tea Party that works together with, to the degree we can, these county parties is so important for that election. And I lost my papers here for where's our slide here for
You have Lisa come up?
what we're doing. I think I have Lisa coming up,
Yes.
and I apologize for all the changes in people showing up and not coming up. Lisa, come on up today. There you go, Dean Stoll. There, thanks, Dean. Here you go.
Thanks, Tom, and it's really great to be here this evening.
Next time.
Very, very excited for you. Hi, folks. So the first thing that I want to say tonight is, since I haven't been here since the primary, is one, for everyone who came out and volunteered and supported me and came out and voted for me and believed in me over the past few months, thank you so very, very much for your efforts. I am so grateful for that. And I also want to say, for those of you who worked hard and volunteered for my opponent, for Kevin, I want to say thank you too, because that's how the process works when people get involved and they support their candidates. And I think the last time that I actually was here, we had a lot of Senate and governor candidates here. It was a long night, and I got up for about 3 minutes and I said, you know what? On May 17th, on that evening, or May 18th, and it took a little bit longer in the senatorial race, we're going to find out that maybe the candidate that we've been stumping for is not the candidate going through to the general election. And I said, but as a party and as people and as conservatives, we need to all come together and unite and take all that energy that we had working for our candidates and now put it towards the candidate that is the nominee for these races, the nominee for governor, the nominee for U.S. Senate, the nominee for Pennsylvania's 7th Congressional District, and make sure that these nominees win in November. So for those of you who worked on Team Scheller, there is no better time than tonight to join Team Scheller. We have clipboards out. We're looking for volunteers. And I have to tell you, I have been fighting this woke culture and this cancel culture and everything that Susan Wild is doing that is trying to undermine our democracy and our personal liberty. And a little bit of the woke culture has finally kind of rubbed off on me. I now have some personal pronouns. And my personal pronouns are her, she, because I can identify with Pennsylvania chocolate. So as we move forward towards this general election in November, we do need to be united to defeat Susan Wild, because you know what? She is the one who gave us $5 gasoline. She's the one who praised Biden for what happened in Afghanistan. She's the one who thinks that people should cross our border, whether it's with fentanyl, terrorism, human trafficking, and so on, and come into our United States of America and be paid for by tax-paying dollars from all of us. That is what she has given. That is why she needs to go. Now, I've developed a relationship with Kat Kamek, and part of that relationship, she goes out and she talks about that she is Nancy Pelosi's least favorite person in Congress. And I kind of like that title, all right? So I don't know if I want to be Nancy. Well, by the time when I get to Washington, I won't be Nancy Pelosi's least favorite person in Congress along with Kat Kamek. But you know what I'll be along with Kat Kamek? The majority. And Nancy Pelosi will be So we all do know the failures of Susan Wild. I've talked about them over and over again. If people want to know what are the kinds of things that I plan to work on when I am elected to Congress, and some of those are, what committees do I want to serve on? And they're things that I actually have a background in. You don't always get to choose, but some of the areas where I think I have some acumen that I can actually make a difference are financial services, Veterans Affairs, and commerce and energy. And commerce and energy is so very, very important, and potentially foreign affairs as well. My first goal in Washington is going to be make sure that we secure our southern border. Failure of immigration. I've talked about the ghost flights coming here to the Lehigh Valley. I've talked about people coming in here and being on the taxpayer dole for hotels, for children, for medical care, while we have veterans sleeping under bridges. And that just isn't right. And the fentanyl crisis, to which I fought that battle, and I think I'm qualified to help be a part of the solution there. You know, enough fentanyl has now come into our country to kill every man, woman, and child 7 times over. Actually, that's what's been caught. What's come in has been much, much more than that. And we need to stop the fentanyl coming in. We need to identify where it is coming from, and we all know where it is coming from. And we need to hold the manufacturers of the fentanyl, whether they are cartels in Mexico or in China, we need to hold them accountable and make sure that they pay for the crisis that they have caused in this country. And in May, over 50 people that were on the terrorist watch list were apprehended coming across the border. And as we all know, people are dying coming across the border too. And for whatever reason they're coming, that's also, I have to have empathy for people who will take their lives and hop into a back of a truck, crowded in, and that is the last thing that they see because they're trying to get to a land of opportunity. I'm for immigration. I'm for legal immigration. I want to close the border and make sure that people come here the right way. And when they come here the right way, they get to partake of the American dream. I also want to help our veterans because, like I said, our veterans are sleeping under bridges. We have radical progressives that are giving free subsidies to illegal immigrants coming across the border. You know, that's just wrong. So as you all know, or maybe you don't know, while it doesn't fix the whole problem, I think it demonstrates a certain level of commitment that I am donating my entire congressional salary to charities that benefit veterans that live in this district and have already started that program now and committed to at least 3 years, whether I am in office or I am not. I am also going to fight to stop inflation and lower gas prices, heating prices, food prices, like I said, heating oil, clothing prices, everything else that is going on with inflation right now. The hypocrisy of the left cannot be underestimated. We are paying $5 and more for a gallon of gasoline. People are having to decide whether to put food on the table, buy their prescription drugs, pay their rent, and so on. But you know what we have going on that's important? Is Susan Wild is saying that's not really what's going on. She's saying that oil companies are price gouging, and she's being financed by Nancy Pelosi to say this publicly. And on top of that, Joe Biden is now exporting oil and gas to Europe, further draining our national reserves so that they can have lower energy costs. It is the ultimate hypocrisy. And I will make sure that I will do what I need to do to stop funding CRT, which Susan Wild funds. Stop funding CRT in our public schools. I can't do this alone. We can do it together. I'm going to tell you, Pennsylvania's 7th District is the canary in the coal mine, and it is the tip of the spear to take back the House for Republicans. But you don't have to ask me. It's in the National Journal. Cook Political rated this race the only race in the country where a Republican challenger has moved into leans Republican territory, and this organization, 538, a rating organization, has rated Pennsylvania's 7th District as the only challenger race in Pennsylvania where the challenger has the advantage. They said, as of last week, that Susan Wild now has a 35% chance of prevailing. And if the election were held today, Susan Wild would be retired. But the election is 124 days away. It's 124 days until we get Susan Wild out. And you know what? We're fed up with Joe Biden. We're fed up with Nancy Pelosi. And I am, and I think we are all fed up with Susan Wild as well. So I am going to ask you, please sign the clipboards. Please join Team Scheller. Please get to work. She's not going away without a huge fight. I can't do this alone, but together we will in November, and we will take back the House, and we will start to bring conservative and family and constitutional values back to this country so that we and our children and our children's children all have the opportunity to live the American dream that we have had that opportunity. So I say thank you so very much. God bless you, and God bless this amazing nation of the United States of America.
All right, so we were going to have Senator Dust tonight, and Bill Blackenberg has come tonight, and he's going to talk a lot about the election stuff that the senator was going to talk about and some other things. But based on all the changes, we were going to sort of break them up, and then he was going to come back after the break and do some questions. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take the break now a little bit early, and then we're going to come back to two very important segments, because what Lisa just said is very important. Can't take for granted that this wave here that we're going to win, because they won't stop the cheating, and our feckless Republicans need to make sure that they do. So that's that important presentation. After the break, we're going to hear from Mr. Mr. Bockenberg, and then we're going to hear from Beth Finch on the education issues that we're facing here. And there is a bill in the Senate, which is parental rights for education, which sort of mirrors the bill that came out of Florida. And he's going to talk a little bit about that. So we're going to take our break now. What I would ask you to do is, one, we have the buckets for donations, and I'm going to get to Tim real quick before we take the break. But with the buckets for the donations, please. It does cost us more to be here than it did at the Bureaus, so we need you to be helping us with that process. And also, I know I made that announcement at the beginning. I don't know where Tim was, but I was talking for before. But August 27th is the pig roast, and you want to say about 2 words on that?
Good evening, everybody. We have tickets for that pig roast in the back for sale. We also have sponsorship, $100 to sponsor, and you get a free ticket with that. You'll have your name up. We're going to put a banner up, and we're also going to have paperwork out there so people could use your shop. If you're a beautician, if you're a pizza store, we're going to have your name up. If you're a chiropractor, and people could use your business also. Don't be afraid. We have a singer. We have a dunk tank, and the food is going to be awesome. It's going to be a great day out here. You got the kids. We got kid prices. We have for couples $40, for single $25, and also we will have the dunk tank and kids games for them to be having fun the whole day. So come on down, sign up for the big roast. Let's have a great time. And here's Tom.
So we're going to take a little break now. Please, about 10 minutes from now, we're going to reconvene. And to help us out, buy the raffle tickets and buy the hot dogs and take a break and talk and socialize, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. All right, Dave, one more time.
Yo!
There we go. He was my favorite person in all the driveways. All right, so we got a lot to accomplish. We often talk about God being on our side, but actually we need to be on God's side. So always pray and keep that in mind. So thank you for coming out tonight again. And Mr. Bockenberg, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. I would like everyone to welcome Bill Bockenberg here tonight. Many of you are well aware of who he is and the many presentations he's given us on the election issues. So thank you for coming out tonight, Bill.
How come I get all that respect tonight, Mr. Bockenberg? You never say that otherwise. Especially those midnight calls. Well, thank you for having me here tonight. I got the call around 3 o'clock from the Chief of Staff from Senator Dush's office that they're still in session dealing with the budget. And Tom asked me to make up 20 minutes. So I put together a quick presentation, and I won't be as polished because I'm going to have to read some of my notes here, but there's a lot of good information here. And I want to thank Dean and Lisa for their comments earlier. The real facts here are if we don't fix election integrity, we're not going to win in the fall.
That's right.
They're talking about this red wave, and I'm really sick and tired of hearing about it. And you know how I sometimes get emotional, and the last week and a half I've been extremely emotional with the crap that I'm dealing with out in Harrisburg, and we'll talk about that. So let's go to the first slide. I don't have my little clicker here. Click, click. Do the little thing, click, click. Well, while Andrew's trying to figure out the click. What's going on out in Harrisburg right now is there was no budget approved last week on Thursday, which is supposed to be approved by the end of June. June. And there's really a bunch of stumbling blocks from my understanding. They're being really close-lipped about it. But my understanding is Shapiro wants $1.2 billion for education in the unions. That's with a B, billion. Right? Our great house wants to give them $850 million. But there's no accountability for the money, how it's going to be spent, where it's going to be spent. There's no performance metrics. There's no banning of CRT or critical race theory. There's no banning of the racial NEA, National Education Association's radical agenda. Right? We're just going to give them another $850 billion. I believe last year we gave them $300 million. That's Harrisburg for you. They claim there's about a $10 billion surplus, and most of that money came from the federal government through the COVID relief. So we have record high taxes, record high crime, illegal drugs, ridiculous gas prices, food, and our legislators out there in Harrisburg are worried about giving the teachers more money. I kept getting sick and tired of hearing the same shit, pardon the expression, ladies, from our legislators out there that the governor won't sign anything. And as Dean brought up earlier, there's a very simple solution, is our House and our Senate has to approve a budget for the governor to sign. And why do we have to give the governor a budget without what we want in it, which is election reform? So I got a hold of Tom Campione. Tom built a website for us. You can write down that, take a picture of that, petitionpa.com/budget, and you can go and fill out a petition that then emails all the legislators of leadership in the House and Senate, and also your local state Senate and House member. And what we are demanding is the following slides. And next slide. Because these legislators we're dealing with, I'm going to say something, most of them, all right? There's a couple of good legislators that are working with us and holding the line. But most of these legislators, my friend came up with a new term for them, they're dumber than dog shit. Honest to God, they're dumber than dog shit. And it's some of our local legislators that don't have a effing clue what's going on with election fraud, right? So, our legislators voted in Act 77. They can vote it out, right? It's been proven twice here that it's been unconstitutional. The Democrats are doing mail-in ballot harvesting with it. That's illegal, but nobody seems to care. The Democrats are stuffing drop boxes, and our Republicans are doing nothing about it, and especially here in Lehigh County, where we've got them on video stuffing them out ballot boxes, and our DA didn't do anything. The Democrats are working on perfecting the fraud. You know what came to me last week? A friend of mine that owns a drive-in movie theater. The Democrat rural development guy is trying to book all the drive-in movie theaters in Pennsylvania for October and November for staffing and holding drive-in mail-in balloting. I've got it all in writing. Full write-up from this guy asking the drive-in movie theaters to use their facilities.
How many are there, do you know?
31 drive-in movie theaters. That's how stupid our legislators are. They think it's not going to come out to the rural part, right? They think it's only going to happen in Philadelphia and Allegheny and Allentown and others. So, I've been pushing to get rid of mail-in ballots. On the petition, I'm asking for 5 major initiatives. Get rid of mail-in ballots. The next, require voter ID. What a novel idea. Right? You can't get on a plane. You can't get any benefits from the state or the federal government without an ID. You can't do anything without an ID. Right? A good friend of mine lives in Puerto Rico. And in Puerto Rico, in high school, you have to register to vote with a voter ID. And if you don't vote in 2 elections, you lose your ability to vote. You have to go and re-register. Puerto Rico. And we can't do that here in Pennsylvania. The other thing, too, is, you know, if you read down the list here, and we talked about this before, is it just goes on and on. These legislators and their stupidity of not understanding what's coming. Right? The next one is we want them to get rid of something called ERIC. the Electronic Registration and Information Center. This is a sleeper that I'm sure, how many have heard of Eric before? A few. Okay. Eric was founded by, guess who? George Soros. The Brennan Law Center for Justice, and a few others. Okay. It's run by some of the most evil individuals on the liberal side currently. There's zero accountability. And what Pennsylvania does is we send our voter registration rolls, all 9 million plus voters, to Eric every month. Your name, your address, your date of birth, your driver's license number, your sex. Why? Supposedly they're cleaning the voter rolls. Our legislators are clueless. In the 2020 election, Eric found 12.2 million new voters. Well, what did Biden win by? 10 million? And amazing, months later, those 10.2 million voters disappeared. So we need to get rid of Eric. Eric also asks if what your legal residency status is. If you're a U.S. citizen. We send it to them. They crush it with now, one state pulled out so far, so now there's 30 states that are doing this, and they're meshing with all the 30 other states' databases. And then they send it back to us, we have no idea what to do. Because you can't audit it. So we need to get rid of Eric. Right? The SURE system is the next one. Right? You've heard me talk about the SURE system, which is the State Uniform Registry, something or other. But it holds all the voter registration records. Every one of us voters is in the SURE system. Well, guess what? In December of 2019, just before the 2020 election, a Democrat Auditor General audited the SURE system. They couldn't find out where 70% of the records in the SURE system came from. 70% of the voters, they don't know how it got into the SURE system. There's no source document. And by law, every record, every change, the whole history of every record needs to be there. They can't find it. And by the way, PennDOT allowed for 10 years or so of illegals to register to vote when they got their driver's licenses. And PennDOT calls it a bug. I wrote programming for 30 years. It wasn't a bug. It was intentional. And they got caught. So the SURE system needs to be completely cleaned up. The records need to be audited. And boy, that's going to set them all off on civil rights issues. But this is a civil rights issue. Our civil rights in this room here. Right? We're entitled to fair and free elections. The other thing what you don't know is coming, and neither do our frickled legislators, is there's a new SURE system coming. They outsourced it to a company from St. Louis. I'm telling you here right now, that new SURE system is a license to steal elections. It is the same software that was used in Maricopa County, Arizona, which we've got phenomenal amount of research on the fraud out there and how they used it. They will know, outside organizations based on the RFP response of what they say they're going to do, will know where your ballot is in the mail because they're integrated to the U.S. Postal System. So if you mail your ballot, they will know in that new SURE system where it is through the whole transport of the mail system. So they're going to know ahead of time who voted. Think about that. They will know with mapping and GIS, graphical information systems, where the people voted down to the doors of the different people. This is a license to steal. So we've got to get the SURE system cleaned up. Legislators don't want to hear about it. I had to write all this stuff up for these morons out there in Harrisburg because they have no clue, right? Because I gave them the 5 points that we wanted, and I get a whole bunch of crap back. Well, we don't see anything really wrong with this. You don't think it's like it just drives me crazy. The last one is what Dean talked about, is we need to ban the CTCL or Zuckerberg bucks, or ultimately what's private money affecting elections. $35 million came into Pennsylvania, the Secretary of State got $10 million, and the county's got $25 million. So there is a bill floating around in the House that's not gained any traction for the last 4 or 5 months. And I don't know if it's going to be included with the budget here or not. I doubt it, the way they're talking. But when I talked to a local state rep here, he knew nothing about it. Didn't even know what I was talking about. I get a text message from the leader of the Senate and says we're going after the Zuckerberg money. And I responded back, I want in that bill the destruction of all the ballot printers, all the scanners, and all the drop boxes that money funded. And she asked me, what does CTL stand for? This is what we're dealing with, right? Philadelphia bought $1 million ballot printer. 320,000 ballots a day it runs. They already get their ballots commercially printed. So why do they need that printer? We should destroy it so they can't use it for additional fraud. So where are we at? I've been pushing really hard. Apparently I'm being blamed now why the budget wasn't approved last week. I'll take that with a badge of honor. I'm telling them out there, no election reform, no budget. It's not any compromise at all. We cannot go on. Most of our legislators are either tone dead, quite frankly, they're really lazy, I've been told by people in the know, or they're dumber than dog shit.
The House did
And I'm
pass it.
sorry, what's that?
The House did pass it
The House passed what?
tonight.
They passed what?
The budget.
The House passed the budget, but we don't know what it is. I know the Senate was having another session tonight. They were 3 hours this afternoon. That's why Senator Dush couldn't get here. He's with us 1,000%. One of the few I've met out there that's with us. So it's time we replace those that don't vote for election reform, right? I'm sick and tired of hearing that this legislator is a nice person, that legislator is a nice person. We need to start judging them on their actions.
That's right.
No more money. Stop funding them. Kim Ward called me and told me I can't primary Pat Brown because we need his money that he raises. That's the only reason I can't primary him. Because they needed his money. He got $2 million the last 10 years from PACs that aren't even in this area, for crying out loud.
How about term limits?
Well, there's so much more we could go. I got to go for 5 that I think is most important to win elections, right? So, what do we have for a history here? The rhino hunt, right? Some of you know I have a trophy room. I'm moving my rhino from the sporting clay range to my house, and I'm going to frame that underneath the rhino. And I'm going after the other election officials, the legislators that aren't going to stand with us. Because we've got to stand up. So my last slide here is, who's next? Joe Emmerich, McKinsey's, Flood. They better jump on board, and they better not approve the budget out there without election reform. Because they've had 2 weeks plus of advance notice and over, I think, 16,000 emails from this petition that was circulated. So I don't want to hear they don't know anything about it. All right. We've got to start standing up for ourselves. And if not, you know what? We've got 2 years now to replace them. We're behind the 8 ball. But if we start now, like Andrew did at the county, at Northampton County, we start identifying candidates today. We start grooming them, promoting them, getting them known, help them with the donors, we can beat these SOBs out there and get rid of them and stand up for us. Thank you.
Okay, so Andrew, are you able to go back to that slide that had that petition? Is that possible? Otherwise, one of the things that I've been telling a lot of the leaders of the other grassroots organizations across the state is we cannot continue to support these people as the lesser of two evils, because what is the lesser of two evils but still evil? We are in a battle of good versus evil, and these Republican legislators are laughing at us right now. They are out in Harrisburg. They don't like the heat. They're mad at people like Bill and people like us for pushing this. But in the end, they're thinking we'll just make it through, and then we're going to hold our noses and vote for them. One of the things that we need you to do is go to that petition, sign it, process it, get that done. More voices that hear. And in the end, if you call them and tell them that you're not voting for them in the fall, they're not going to believe you. But if enough of us start saying, we simply will not vote for you in the fall if you do not do this, maybe perhaps they'll do it. I don't think they're going to believe you because, we never vote for the Democrats. We're not going to vote for the Democrats, but we're not going to vote for them either, and then the chips will fall where they may. Because when we have these Republicans in the legislature that aren't doing our bidding as the people, they're just as bad as the Democrats. In fact, they're nothing more than controlled opposition for the Marxists anyway. So, with that being said, another person who stepped up in the heat of a lot of allegations and slings and arrows against her, Beth Finch, who's here today. She's head of our education committee. She's also running for a seat. They tried to jump her off the ballot. Guess who challenged her to get off the ballot? It was not Democrats. It was a Republican rhino who went after her. She got dumped off the ballot in the primary, but she prevailed, did a write-in campaign, and she's on the ballot for November. Congratulations. She's going to run against Smartburg, and we need to replace him. So welcome, Beth, and today talk to us a little bit about education and the parental rights bill that's in front of the Senate right now.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming out tonight. As Tom said, my name is Beth Finch. I am your Republican candidate for State Rep District 132. Very, very proud of that and prevailing, like Tom said, after being booted off the ballot. So that was pretty neat. Anyway, I wanted to talk to everybody about some things that are going on in our schools, what we can do to fight it, what we can do to step up and help. And Tom mentioned the Senate Bill 1278. It was introduced by Senator Scott Martin, and it is one of great importance when it comes to the future of our parental rights in schools. Legislation is being introduced to improve transparency. We all know how important that is, and gives parents opportunities to make decisions involving our kids' education. Imagine a bill needing to do that. I know it's hard to fathom not being able to do that, but our rights are being stripped one after another, as we all know, and we have to fight to regain and keep them. Did anyone in here hear about the 5th graders in the Parkland School District who were sent home with pamphlets on gender identity? No. I'll tell you about it. So some of the quotes, and this is directly from the pamphlet. I scanned it and put it right in here. Keep in mind, these are 5th graders, so we're talking maybe 9, 10, 11 years old. So the first thing they do is they say, let's start with a few definitions. First one is biological sex. Your biological sex is based on the genitals you're born with and the chromosomes you have. Okay. At birth, most people are either born male or female. So I'm very curious to know what the rest of us are born as. The next one they have on here is gender identity. This is about how you feel and how you think about yourself when it comes to gender. Everyone's gender identity is unique to them and should be respected. So they're telling our kids this. They're telling 5th graders this. They have on here gender roles and stereotyping. This gets fun. These are socially constructed.
They relate to characteristics and behaviors that are typically thought to go alongside a person's biological sex. They can often stereotype boys and girls. You might have started to notice that people expect you to look, act, or behave in a certain way just because you're a boy or a girl, and they call that stereotyping. Then they tell our children, don't let society limit you. Your biological sex shouldn't define what you can or can't do. And stereotyping someone because of their gender or thinking that someone is better or worse because of their gender can be very, very harmful. They tell them that they can be whatever they want, stay strong, and believe that they can achieve anything. Then they go on to say, you're great just the way you are. We're all different, and that's what makes us beautiful. Imagine if we all look the same. Okay, I get it. That's fine. That's okay. I'm all right with that. Then they get into this part where it says, try and look and focus on staying healthy and happy and being proud of uniqueness, and make sure to be supportive of those around you. The next part of their wonderful send home pamphlet is about healthy relationships. They talk about taking care of others around you. During puberty, everyone is going through changes that can be hard to deal with. They want them to look out for others and share with a trusted adult if they're worried about any friends. Now, we're getting into some things that I had a big problem with. Discovering new feelings. At this particular moment of your life, when your body is producing a lot more hormones, you might start to experience new feelings. Some of these feelings may cause you to be more curious about your body, and it's good to remember this curiosity is totally normal. Then they talk about personal intimacy. I'm sure you know where this is going. As these hormones can make people feel more curious about their new feelings, some may begin to explore intimate parts of their body, especially their genital area. This is not right or wrong, but it's personal and should be done in private. Then they talk about intimate feelings towards others and how they may have crushes or feelings about someone. But keep in mind, the person they're crushing on may not feel the same as you, and it's important to respect others' personal choices. So not only are they telling our kids to accept anything and everything because it's personal choice, but they're telling them not to let society limit them regarding gender identity, and encouraging what they're calling personal intimacy in 5th graders. So I may not have had as much of an issue with this if parents had been given some type of consent and had full details, full disclosure on what was being given to our kids. If someone wanted to opt in for this, then that's their decision. But at the same time, we all should have been given the opportunity to opt in or opt out, and we weren't. When myself and several others reached out to the superintendent of the Parkland School District regarding this pamphlet, we all received a similar response, a pretty canned response. Here's what I received from Mark Madsen, superintendent. Hi Beth, the pamphlet you attached, which is from Procter & Gamble, passing the buck, has also been distributed in years past, which is a lie. In regard to this spring when they were handed out, we learned that this was given to one elementary school, so they didn't even know. The other elementary schools do not have this pamphlet and will not be distributing it to the students. I can go on and on about the emails that I sent this man regarding these responses to me. In review of your concern, in the future, our team may provide an electronic copy of this pamphlet to the parents when they preview the presentation and let them decide if they want to share it with their children. All the while, it was already sent home to our kids. Our kids already saw it, and the superintendent of the school district had no idea that it went home or what was in it. So in further conversation with Superintendent Mark Madsen, like I said, not only was he unaware that the pamphlet was being distributed, he didn't know what was in it. And I know some of you are aware that I'm very involved with the schools locally, and the superintendent of Parkland and I have had many, many conversations. Usually during our conversations, he makes sure to say at some point that he's more like me than I realize. And he jokes about how we should talk after he retires, because currently he has to toe a line. I told Mark in our conversation regarding this very pamphlet that we cannot possibly be similar,
Because if I was the superintendent of the Parkland School District, I would have been much more vigilant and never let something like this go out. I question whether he was the right fit for superintendent, and if he can't manage to keep up with what's happening and what's being distributed in our schools to our children. So this is just one example of the things that are going on right under our noses, and it's happening in every public school. And I even had a conversation tonight. It's in Catholic schools as well. East Penn, for example, I'm just going to throw one out there, went as far as having a transgender day in their district. This is East Penn, Emmaus area. Christian schools are now being tempted with federal money. If they take on certain programs, they can go ahead and be woke. Luckily, we have several in this area who will not be doing so. If you're looking into sending your kids to Christian school, take note of the schools that I'm about to mention that are safe and free from the woke agenda. And I've spoken with these people. It's not that I'm just, taking a stab at it. I've reached out and I've spoken with them. So Covenant Christian Academy in Bethlehem will not be accepting any federal funding, and they're making it extremely clear in their statement of faith that they teach, per the Bible, there are two genders, male and female. It's exactly the same with Lehigh Christian Academy in Allentown, Bethlehem Christian School, and Faith Christian Academy in Quakertown. Now, there could be others that I just haven't heard back from yet, but this is what I know for certain. So what can we do to help restore and keep parental rights in schools? This is so important. I know you guys have heard me say it. I beat it like a dead horse. Show up at the school board meetings. And when you show up, make sure you've done your research. No matter what school district you're in, whether you have kids, grandkids, or no kids in the district you're living, you are paying school taxes. And if you don't agree with what your district is teaching, you have to speak up. This is happening in every district locally. None are exempt from this. And if you need to know who to reach out to regarding what's already being done within parent groups in these districts, here I am. We don't want to show up at school board meetings and tell the board, we know teachers are teaching CRT, because they aren't. You will make it so easy for the board and the superintendent to tell you are incorrect in saying CRT is being taught, because the term CRT is not at all used in our public school systems from pre-K through 12th grade. There are, however, a couple of different terms you should be looking for when perusing school websites or speaking up at school board meetings, and I know you've probably heard them quite a bit at these meetings. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is one, as well as social and emotional learning. Those are the two main terms where tenets of CRT are hidden and being used to further this agenda of making one group of kids think they're the oppressors and the rest are the oppressed. It's so wrong on so many levels, and we need Senate Bill 1278 to get through to help us fight against this nonsense. We need you to help get this bill passed, which is another thing we can do to combat this whole agenda. Something that's very important to me is making sure you all know, if I make it to Harrisburg, supporting parental rights as well as regaining and protecting our freedoms will be two things that I am greatly focused on, as well as fighting for less government spending so we can lower costs across the board, including our ridiculous gas tax. While on the topic of taxes, in the last couple of weeks, I witnessed 2 local school boards vote yes on tax increases that were completely unnecessary. Our Republican-dominant Parkland School Board voted yes on a 1.2% increase, after being presented with a 0% increase option by administration, which was rejected by the Democrats, who are in the minority, on the board. It was a 6-3 vote, with only Jarrett Coleman being the true no vote, since the other 2 came from Patrick Foose. I don't know if anybody knows that name, but he is a true rhino. He is also up for re-election, hence the no vote. And otherwise, it was Jay Rohaki, who is a Democrat and also up for re-election. Otherwise, he consistently votes Democratic as well. made the same decision in their district. It was a lot tighter there with a 5-4 vote on a 5.3% tax increase. They claimed they needed better for their kids, which they do every single year. So where is it? Where is the improvement? They've been raising taxes year after year, but still remain a struggling district. Where's the money going? Both districts had board members state how these increases weren't really a big deal because it only amounts to a small increase for the year. Any increase right now is too much, and it wasn't necessary. Parkland admittedly has millions of taxpayer dollars sitting in what Carol Fasciano, another rhino on our board, called the district's savings account. It's your taxpayer money, but they have to raise taxes instead of using what they already have, right? Another issue here is that the amount of money the administration is making and how the school board members who voted yes didn't at all care about the struggles we're all facing. Our pockets are bleeding. Do they care? Not in the slightest. Allentown School District created too many positions to fund, and now they're relying on another increase to cover them. Nick Miller, who is running against our very own Dean Browning, voted against this increase. Surprising. The only reason he did is because he's running against Dean Browning. And anyone who's been watching him otherwise knows he always votes with the Democrats. It was very clear why he didn't. It is our job to get these people out of here. We need to vote to get new members on the board who have the best interests of our kids and our residents in mind. And we can't just vote Republican without doing research. We have seen, just in Parkland alone, that with a Republican-dominant school board, we don't have any conservatives at all, except for Jared Coleman. We have 9 total members, 5 are Republican, and we're not seeing conservative decisions being made. So do your research before you make that vote. Senate Bill 1278 needs to pass so we can keep fighting and empower our boards and administrators to fight too. We need to stand up with them and back them and let them know they can change things. Now, how can you help get Senate Bill 1278 passed? So you can go online. You can go to lvtp.org/gender. You can actually go to petitionpa.com/gender. It'll take you right to it. And it's the same thing like Bill mentioned. You just enter your information. It will send an email on your behalf. That email reads, as a Pennsylvania voter, I implore you to protect the innocence of our children who attend public school. It is totally inappropriate for teachers or others in the school system to discuss gender identity or sexual orientation with our children.
That's right.
Instead, schools must reinforce the fundamental right of the parent or legal guardian to make decisions regarding their child and encourage a student to discuss such issues with their parent or legal guardian. Therefore, I expect my state senator to sponsor Senate Bill 1278 and vote yes. Further, I expect the Education Committee chairs and leadership in both houses to move this bill quickly. And I expect my House rep to vote yes when it arrives to the floor vote. That's what they'll see when you go on and fill this out. Please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to me with any questions or concerns, anything. And please make sure, if you are in Legislative District 132 for the upcoming election in November, and you want positive changes in your community, schools, and anywhere else I can manage to make a change, vote Beth Finch for General Assembly District 132. Thank you, and God bless.
You really are short. Okay, so I think we're about ready to conclude our business tonight. Again, we need donations to pay for the room, and Andrew's got some technical difficulties going on here, but
He's going into
we're going to draw the 50-50 raffle now. Are we ready to do that? Can you get the microphone sent out there?
It's there.
All right, so who's got the mic?
Hunky Joe's
Hunky Joe's going to draw that tonight, okay. And then we're going to have a quick concluding remarks. and then we'll send everybody on their way. All right, come on, Joe. I know, Wyatt. All right, what's the number?
Lights. Oh, hold on.
What do you mean it's not working?
Is it on? They gotta click it on.
You gotta click it on.
Oh, he's bringing it up here.
Bring it up here.
It's just a stage he's passing through.
I don't know what's going on. Did they pull a ticket? All right, good way to conclude the meeting. Did we pull it? Did we pull a ticket? Just bring it up here and we'll call it out here. Now it's working. Sorry about that. Thank you. All right, 397379.
Can't see. Give me some light quick.
Is that the right ticket, Jared? I mean, Wyatt? Okay. 397379. I got it. All right, we got a winner. Thank you. All right. So I think at this point, one, I want to thank all the people that came from long distances from Berks County and Bucks County and everywhere else tonight. God bless everybody for being here. Stand firm, pray to God. God bless everyone, and we'll see you in August.
I know. We're working. Thank you.
Oh, and I did forget one thing. Wyatt has the Young Conservative group, and he has an event coming up that he would like to, Wyatt, what's the date of that event? July 24th. And he has some flyers over there, so if you have anybody that's under 40 and tied to your family, go over and see Wyatt and get a flyer for his event on July 24th. Don't forget about our pig roast on August 27th.